Welcome. Glad you came back for more of Meg's Mysteries. This is called Playful Things. Moving to a new place is always hard, leaving familiar territory. But my family and I are moving to a place I grew up and always thought was magical. Now we're making a long journey across the sea to England and my ancestral home. My name is Penny Langley Masters. My husband Ted and I, and my 3 children, Chris, Dan, and Suzanne, are crossing the sea to our new home. My grandfather George Langley left me the cottage on the Langley estate in his will. The cottage was my favorite place to play as a young girl, and it's larger than the house we had in the States. Our little family will fit nicely, and the kids will have their own space. What a lovely place for them to grow up. I always loved visiting here. It was a long trip, and the last time I was in England, I was only 8. But it left an impression on me. The manor house was so large, a small child like me, it seemed to swallow me up. That's why I used to escape to the cottage. That's where the old nanny, Lillian, lived, who was my grandfather's and my mother's nanny. She was so sweet to me and my sister Grace. We would slip off to see her and play for hours there. The cottage was down the lane from the estate, from the manor house, and grandfather left it all to me. Nanny is long gone now, but he knew that I loved it. My parents and my sister didn't want any part of it, so it was mine and my family's good fortune. They received a large amount of money, and everybody was happy. I especially, now that I owned the place I loved. The manor house was left to my great aunt Jane, my grandfather's sister. Till this day, the manor house looms over the estate with its dark and eerie shadows, but the cottage is bright and cheery even now. My children are thrilled to be here. It's a magical place with its gardens, open area to explore and play, not like the city we came from. I think this is going to be great for all of us, a new life. My husband Ted is a writer and said it'll be a great inspiration for his books. I'm his illustrator, and I also am a photographer. This is wonderful for both of our passions. The only clause in the will was that I take care of my great aunt Jane every day. I must go visit her and spend time in the manor house. She was crippled at a young age, and she always lived there. She's very strict and set in her ways, and she doesn't care for children too much. But I take the little ones with me, and we keep them out of her way. They play in the old schoolroom on the top floor, far away from her room. One afternoon, I went to bring tea and cakes to the children. I saw Suzanne. She was talking to herself, laughing and playing. I thought she must have an imaginary friend. And I noticed Dan was off playing ball against a wall, and he also was talking to someone that I couldn't see. I asked, "What are you two up to?" Little Suzanne said, "Playing with my friend." Dan also said, "This is Gregory, my friend." I thought Suzanne was only 5 and Dan 8. Maybe they needed imaginary friends in this old house. When school starts, they'll make real ones. Then I remembered I had an imaginary friend when I was here, but her name escapes me now. I asked Suzanne, "What's your friend's name?" She said, "Sarah, and she's my age." Well, all children have imaginary friends, so I didn't get alarmed until a few days later. We were all home at the cottage, and the children were getting ready for bed. I was down in the parlor with Ted, and Chris was up in his room talking to his friends from the States. He's 15 and can stay up later than the little ones. The little ones were laughing and playing. I said, "Bedtime, you two," and I went up to see what they were up to. Suzanne said, "Oh, Mommy, our friends are here. Can't we stay and play?" I told him, "You can play tomorrow. It's late now." Then I put both of them to bed. An hour later, Ted heard a noise coming down the steps. A ball appeared. It was glowing and bouncing down to his feet. I said, "They must be still awake. I'll go check on them." I went upstairs and both of them were sound asleep in their beds. So I asked Chris, "Did you see the ball?" He said, "No, I was reading. I never saw that one before." Then we heard laughing and the ball disappeared before our eyes. Ted said, "That's creepy, but it'll make a great story." I told him there must be an explanation. "It's late, let's all get some sleep." So the next day we went back to the manor house. The kids ran straight up to the schoolroom. Aunt Jane was in a terrible state. She said, "The children are making so much noise last night." I told her it must have been a dream. We were all at the cottage. She said, "No, they're back." I didn't know what to think, but they're still here. I said, "Oh, I know she's old and maybe her mind is going." That night, while we were sleeping, I heard the toy phone ring in Suzanne's room. Then children speaking. I went to check. Suzanne and Dan were fast asleep. Then the phone rang again. I picked it up. A child's voice said, "Do you want to come play with us?" I put the phone down and got chills down my spine. Then I picked it up again and said, "Who is this?" The child said, "I'm Sarah. Don't you remember me?" Sarah, now I remembered. She was my imaginary friend when I was little. I went and told Ted all about it. He said, "This is crazy. We need to ask somebody what's going on. Maybe the place is haunted. It is an old estate." I told him, "Stop kidding around." So the next day I got my nerve up and asked Aunt Jane. Her eyes got big and teary. I didn't want to upset her, but I had to know what the history of the place was. Is there any ghost? Are they harmful to my children? Just then a cat, toy mouse, came running across the room. There were no cats here anymore, but I remember an old orange one when I was small. We used to call her Miss Kitty, but she must be long gone now. Maybe she haunts the place too. Finally, Aunt Jane told me the story. She had a twin sister named Sarah and an older brother named Gregory. Sarah was 5 and Gregory was 8. They were both killed in a carriage accident, and she was crippled. George, my grandfather, was driving them around the estate, and the horses were spooked by something. The carriage overturned, and they were killed. Oh, they were both so young to die. George and I took it so bad, but he felt worse, and I was a steady reminder of the accident, being crippled for life. I never blamed him. It wasn't his fault at all. I used to think I heard them playing in the schoolroom, but everybody told me it's my imagination and my loss. They've been quiet until you came when you were a child, and now your children woke them up again. I went home and told Ted. He said, "It makes sense if you believe in ghosts." So we watched our children closely, but they seemed fine and happy. Even Chris was getting to enjoy his new home and eager to start making new friends from the village and the school. Suzanne and Dan continued to play with their friends, and a couple of times I can hear a cat meowing now and then, but no one else is around, and then I feel something rubbing up against my leg. So I just say, "Hello, Miss Kitty," and she purrs. But when I say bedtime, they all leave. All the ghosts go home. Aunt Jane is happy again. She can see them too. And I hear her say, "Oh, I've missed you too. Come out and play." Just like she's a small girl again. So I guess I really had a special friend way back when in my childhood. And now my children brought them back. We're one big happy family again. The ghosts are happy, and so are we. Ted is going a new way with his writing. He's doing short ghost stories now. This one will be called Playful Things. and he'll do more research around the area. They must have many stories in a village like this. He'll collect them all and add them to our new real ghost stories, believe it or not. What do you think? Do you believe in ghosts? Thank you for coming by for more of Meg's Mysteries. Have a great evening.